Everybody, Finance Committee coming to order at 7:04 on, what's the date today?
April 8th.
April 8th. So we have a couple of people on Zoom. So Heather, are you good to go?
I'm good to go, thank you.
And Sandy, you're not on, are you?
She's not.
Okay. So let's just identify ourselves for the record. So Heather, why don't you start?
Warren Finance Committee.
Robert Leonardi, Finance Committee.
Ryan Hogan.
Lynn Mazzulli.
Dick Vandenberg.
Carol Gogolinsky.
So we heard from Howard D'Amico, he's not able to make it, and Mike Hutnick had a prior family commitment. And then I heard from Sandy, she may come in on Zoom later, but we shall see. So we have our quorum, and let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do, everybody, if you look at your agenda, is I think we're going to do the special first, and then we'll do the budget as part of the annual. Now, people in the audience, do you need summaries of the various warrant articles or not? Do you have them printed? Or so what we're going to do tonight is I'm basically going to summarize what the warrant article is about. I'm not going to read the whole article. Other than the budget, I'll read bold and such. And then if anybody has any question about the warrant article, you can have a chance to ask that question. But that's how we're going to proceed, is I'll do the summary of the warrant article, then we will vote as a Finance Committee to recommend, et cetera, et cetera. So any questions on that, anyone? Everybody good? Okay. So if you look at the special, first of all, I'll have that in front of you. All right, so Article 1 has to do with fiscal year 2025 budget transfers and amendments. This will enable the town to address changes in spending and costs that have occurred during the fiscal year 2025. These are kind of standard that we do. Any questions, FinCom, on Article 1?
No.
Anybody in the audience? Article 1. Can we have a motion then to recommend Article 1 as written?
So moved.
Lynn moves.
Second.
Second by Ryan. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 We need to
Opposed?
do a roll.
Oh, we got to do roll call vote, sorry.
Roll call vote.
Okay, you start, Rob.
Robert Leonardi, aye.
Ryan Hogan, aye.
Lynn Mazzulli, aye.
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Carol Gogolinsky, aye.
Heather Warren, aye.
Okay. Heather, didn't mean to slight you there, so sorry.
No worry.
Okay. All right. Article 2 of the special. Snow and ice account. This enables us to, again, address changes in spending and costs that have occurred. Any questions on Article 2 of the special, Finance Committee? No. Questions, audience? Okay, we need a motion then to recommend Article 2 as written.
So moved.
Lynn makes it.
Second.
Ryan seconds it. All right, vote by name, yeah.
Robert Leonardi, aye.
Ryan Hogan, aye.
Lynn Mazzulli, aye.
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Carol Gogolinsky, aye.
Heather Warren, aye.
Okay, so that's unanimous. Okay, Article 3 of the special, prior year bills. Again, this enables us to pay bills and things that have come up. Any questions, anybody on Article 3? Audience, any questions? Would somebody move then that we recommend Article 3 as written?
So moved.
Lynn moves.
Second.
Ryan seconds. Let's vote. Rob?
Robert Leonardi, aye.
Ryan Hogan, aye.
Lynn Mazzulli, aye.
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Carol Gogolinsky, aye.
Heather Warren, aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. Then Article 4 of the special, prior year bills, enterprise funds, enables us to adjust changes in spending that have occurred. Would someone move that we recommend to the town Article 4 is written?
So moved.
Lynn moves.
I'll second.
Second.
Oh, Heather seconds. Okay, thank you, Heather. All right, Rob.
Robert Leonardi, aye.
Ryan Hogan, aye.
Lynn Mazzulli, aye.
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Carol Gogolinski, aye.
Heather Moore and I.
All right. Thank you, everybody. So that's the 4 things for the special. Okay. All right, the annual, first part is the Finance Committee report, and I've been working on a paragraph with Gina, Lisa, you guys okay with me just carrying on with
Yes.
with that?
Yep.
Okay, by consensus, we'll do that. All right, so we'll do the budget. So what I will do is I will read the bold category with the total, and if anybody in the audience or the Finance Committee has a question, just say hold, and then we'll come back to it later to see what the questions are. Okay? Any questions on that process?
Just, have there been any changes since the one we saw 2 weeks ago?
Matt?
No.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so so Matt, the third column, the 2026 proposed, that's the number, correct? Okay. All right, so let's begin with general government. So total general government, $2,114,409. Total public safety, $4,499,399. Total public works, $1,173,033. Total Board of Health, $136,908. Total Health and Human Services, $362,651. Total Culture and Recreation, $424,746. Total Education, $20,810,878. Total Insurance, Employee Benefits, and Court Judgments, $5,908,797. Total Debt Service, $1,622,185. So the total budget comes to $36,916,098. So any questions from anybody? Yeah, Jean?
I just want to make a point that BBT will be removed from this document when this gets inserted, and it will stand on its own article.
And it's,
So this number includes BBT, but for presentation for the town meeting and the flyer, it will be removed from these numbers.
yeah, that's its own article,
Correct.
isn't it, the BBT budget?
So these totals would be modified then?
Just, yes, BBT will be removed, the total will be adjusted, and it will stand by itself.
And thanks again to everybody for working on the budget, for Matt sitting with his Excel all day and all night, and the town department heads and everybody working with the constraints that we have. It's not easy, particularly in our current economic environment, but we appreciate everybody's efforts to have a balanced budget. All right, so we have a total then, everybody, of $36,916,098. We need a motion then to recommend that amount to the town meeting.
So moved.
Okay, Heather moves, seconded by
I'll second.
by Ryan Hogan. Okay, so the motion was made and seconded.
So, I'm sorry, so we're moving to recommend the budget, not
Yeah.
just the final number?
Correct.
Correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, we need a vote then.
Robert Leonardi, aye.
Brian Hogan, aye?
Lynn Mazzoli, aye.
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Carol Gogolinski, aye.
Heather Moore, aye.
All right, so that passes unanimously. Okay, let's carry on with Article 3. Salaries of elected officials. Normally at the town meeting, we combine 1 through 3 together, but here we're doing it separately. So so this is Board of Assessors, Blackstone Valley Vocational School District Rep, Moderator, Board of Selectmen, Town Clerk, Water Sewer Commission. Any questions, FinCom, on Article 3? Anybody from the audience? We need a motion then to recommend Article 3 as written.
So moved.
So moved.
Oh, Rob's got the motion. Heather, you want a second?
Second.
All right, any questions? Okay, Rob?
Robert Leonardi, aye.
Brian Hogan, aye?
Lynn Mazzoli, aye.
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Carol Gogolinski, aye.
Heather Moore, aye.
Okay, that passes unanimously. Article 4, the BVT budget, $2,708,653. Any questions, anybody on Article 4? Audience, Article 4, any questions? So we need a motion then that we recommend this to the town meeting as written. Somebody make that motion.
So moved.
Lynn moves.
Second.
Heather seconds. Discussion, anybody? Okay, let's vote. Rob, you want to start?
Robert Leonardi, nay.
Brian Hogan, no?
Lynn Mazzoli, no.
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Carol Gogolinski, aye.
Heather Moore, aye.
So we have 3 yes and 3 no for Article 4. Okay, Article 5, Transfer Station Enterprise Fund. This approves the funding sources and amounts for operating the transfer station. Any questions on Article 5? FinCom.
No.
Anybody in the audience, Article 5? We need a motion then to recommend Article 5 as written.
So moved.
Okay, Rob moves,
Second?
second by Ryan. Discussion? All in favor?
Robert Leonardi, aye.
Brian Hogan, aye?
Lynn Mazzoli, aye.
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Carol Gogolinski, aye.
Heather Moore, aye.
Okay, so that's unanimous. Okay, Article 6, Water Sewer Enterprise Fund. This approves the funding sources and amounts for operating the Water and Sewer Department. Grand total of $2,024,564. Any questions? FinCom. Audience, questions? All right, motion then to recommend Article 6 as written.
So moved.
Lynn, thank you.
Second?
Ryan seconds. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Oh, sorry. Okay, Rob.
Robert Leonardi, aye.
Brian Hogan, aye?
Lynn Mazzoli, aye.
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Carol Gogolinski, aye.
Heather Moore, aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, Article 7, fiscal year 26, public educational and governmental access, total of $124,198. Any questions on Article 7, FinCom? Audience. Motion to recommend as written.
So moved.
Okay, Ryan's got the motion. Seconded by
Second.
Lynn seconds. Okay, we need a roll call vote.
Robert Leonardi, aye.
Brian Hogan, aye?
Lynn Mazzulli, aye.
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Carol Gogolinski, aye.
Heather Moore and I.
Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, Article 8, recurring business. This is something we do every year, needs to be voted and approved on an annual basis, all kinds of categories and things. Any questions, FinCom, on Article 8? Audience, any questions? All right, would someone move then that we recommend Article 8 as written?
So moved.
Heather, thank you. Second?
Second.
Rob, thank you. Okay, let's have a vote. Rob?
Robert Leonardi, aye.
Brian Hogan, aye.
Lynn Mazzulli, aye.
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Carol Gogolinski, aye.
Heather Moore and I.
Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, Article 9, the personnel bylaw classification and update. These tables represent the proposed compensation schedule for FY26. Questions, FinCom, Article 9? Audience, any questions? Would someone move then that we recommend Article 9 as written?
So moved.
Rob moves, seconded by
Second.
Brian, thank you. Discussion? Roll call vote.
Robert Leonardi, aye.
Brian Hogan, aye.
Lynn Mazzulli, aye.
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Carol Gogolinski, aye.
Moore and I.
So that's unanimous. Okay, Article 10 is the capital improvement plan for $1,018,000, and then some other details looking forward with some other capital projects. Any questions on Article 10, FinCom?
Just hearing the selectmen's meeting, are we planning on holding off on the projects until we get a better understanding of our health insurance costs? And that, did I understand that correctly, Matt? Yes. Okay.
Okay.
So we're going to approve to fund the projects, but we'll be going to hold off till we're a little more confident of our free cash position.
Is that a good summary, Matt? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ryan.
You're welcome.
Any other questions on Article 10? Jean, comment.
I'm going to have the FinCom refer to the motions on this because it is specified in the motion where the funding is coming from for this article.
Oh, the free cash and all that, you mean?
Correct.
Okay.
Funding, aye.
So I'll just read this, everybody. So Article 10, the motion is this. This will be the motion that will be at the town meeting. So I move the town vote to transfer the sum of $459,678.66 from free cash, $500,000 from the ambulance receipts reserved for appropriation, and $58,321.34 from a previously approved completed capital project. Article 10, May 6, 2024, highway loader with plow, for a total sum of $1,018,000, which matches the amount on our, in Article 10.
Where are you reading that from?
From the official motion list
ATM motions.
Okay, over here.
on
Let
Article
me
10,
see.
yeah.
Let me look at that again.
Gene, do you need him to read the individual projects or funding?
Free cash.
I just wanted to make sure you were aware of the funding sources.
Okay, great. Thank you.
That makes sense, Carol?
Yes. Okay. All right.
Any other comments on Article 10, everybody, the capital improvement plan? So would someone move then that we recommend Article 10 as written?
So moved.
Okay, Heather, thank you. seconded by
Second.
Ryan, thank you. Any discussion, anybody, on Article 10? Or questions? All right, let's vote then.
Robert Leonardi, aye.
Brian Hogan, aye.
Lynn Mazzoli, aye.
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Carol Gogolinski, aye.
Heather Moore, aye.
So that's unanimous. All right, Article 11, tax exemption for veterans, seniors, and the blank. Chris, can you come to the table a minute? So I had sent you guys Chris's PowerPoint. We didn't have information about this 2 weeks ago. Can you give us just a real quick overview, Chris, not only for FinCom, but people watching at home and stuff?
Yep,
And you did a presentation to the select board.
yes, actually twice. The simple answer is that right now we have statutory exemptions that range from $175 to $1,000 for the taxpayers. This is simply the town saying that we're going to give X percent more of that exemption. The state law allows from 1 to 50%, or 1 to 100%. I think the choice is made to go for 50%. At this point in FY '24, the most recent numbers we had, the base statutory amount of the exemptions for everybody that qualified in town was $60,135. So at 50%, it would be just a tick over $30,000. But it would actually be much less than that because of some internal mechanics of the law.
For the record, Chris is our assessor.
Oh, Chris Pucka, assessor.
Why now, Chris? Why is this before us for this warrant and not, say, a year ago? Or what's the backstory to this?
Essentially, it was brought up in before the fall meeting, but the selectmen wanted more information at that point in time. And the way the law is written, it can't take effect until the start of the next fiscal year after it's adopted. So this was the latest we could do it to have it in place for FY '26. If we don't do it now, we would have to then wait till FY '27.
And you expect then the impact on the budget to be about $30,000, right?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions, anybody, for Chris on this?
What's the financial qualification?
I don't have that information right in front of me. It's around $28,000 income for single, I believe 32 for married, but there's a Social Security exemption amount on that too, so it's not an exact bright line number. And then assets, $40,000 for single, $55,000 for a married couple. That's for 17D is just at the asset. 41C is income and asset component. There's also the blind exemption, so if you have a certificate from Mass Commission for the Blind, that exemption is $437.50, because why not come with a round number? So they would get 50% of that amount. And then you have all the veterans exemptions, so veterans from 10 to 90% qualify, 10 to 90% disabled qualify for a $400 exemption, so they would then now be eligible for an exemption between $400 and $600. And then 100% disabled veterans qualify for $1,000.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Questions for Chris?
Just for informational purposes, right, these additional costs would be funded out of the abatement fund, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anybody in the audience, any questions on Article 11 for our chief assessor? Okay. I see a hand up there? No, that's the coat rack. I should have my long-distance glasses. All right, Chris, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
What's that, Lynn?
I said your plan covers
Yeah.
vision.
All right, any other questions or comments on Article 11, either FinCom or audience? All right, would someone move then that we recommend Article 11 as written?
So moved.
Lynn moved, seconded by
I'll second.
Brian, thank you. Discussion? Okay, roll call vote.
Robert Leonardi, aye.
Brian Hogan, aye.
Lynn Mazzoli, aye.
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Carol Gogolinski, aye.
Heather Moore, aye.
Okay, so that's unanimous. Stormwater bylaw and map is Article 12. And Carol, I wrote for my explanation that this just brings us up to federal standards. Is that
Right.
fair enough?
Right. It's something that they've been trying to bring in for a while, and we do have to do it according to federal standards, but the federal standards only require it in a certain place. So what we did was we had a committee that worked on this for months. I mean, we chewed on every word, and we think that we have this at a point where we are not exceeding any federal standard. We're doing only what is required for us by the federal government. And I recommend that we approve it.
So let's say at the town meeting, someone asks, what if we ignore the feds? What if we don't do this? Is there a penalty down the road, or what?
That I don't know. Maybe Mr. Wojcik knows.
Yeah, Matt, what if somebody asks that at the town meeting? What if we just ignore the federal government? What happens? Anything cataclysmic?
If I could predict the actions of the federal government, I'd be a wealthier man.
Yeah.
The way the regulatory framework is set up, we have a decree that has already been issued to the town, and they are looking for town meeting to complete this in May, to not take any further action. Have they ever actually fined someone? Yes, but it's exceedingly rare. It's only one case in recent memory that the consultant can remember, and it was really as a result of a number of willful actions taken over a period of time. I would strongly urge people not to follow that course. The way the Stormwater Committee put this together, it's a very narrowly drawn, yet compliant MS4 set of bylaws, and at the end of the day, an awful lot of the territory that's within the stormwater bylaws coverage are already within the watershed protection zone, so they already have significant restrictions on their properties. We're not really enhancing them in any way. But it is a box that we have not checked off, and they did notice, and they did send us a consent decree.
Is there a deadline? I mean, if we didn't do it at this town meeting, could we do it at another one, or do we need to?
No, the
get it done
decree is specific.
ASAP.
That it needs to be passed at Maytown meeting.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay. All right, thank you, Matt.
As a question for both of you, both you and Carol, that map there, is that the actual map that's going to be presented at the next month? Because it says regulated stormwater area. I was just curious if that is the
I
map.
believe that it is, yes. So it's only those red areas. Basically, that's where the town has catch basins and stuff. That's what we have to regulate.
So only those defined areas?
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for Matt? Anybody? All right. Thank you, Mr. Wojcik. Audience, any questions on Article 11?
12.
Or 12, sorry. Hey, Carol, thanks again for you and your committee's labors on our behalf. Yeah. All right. Would someone move then that we recommend Article 12 as written?
So moved.
Robert, thank you. Seconded by Lynn. Thank you.
Second.
No, Lynn's got it, Heather.
I thought I was giving Carol the
Oh, okay. I thought we were taking everything over that side so the minute taker would know who's doing what.
Yeah, okay, roll call vote.
Robert Leonardi, aye.
Ryan Hogan abstain.
Lynn Mazzulli, aye.
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Carol Gogolinski, aye.
Heather Moore and I.
So 5 yes, 1 abstention. Okay. Article 13, town-owned land in Uxbridge. So you may recall that this warrant article gives the select board some autonomy with what to do with the land, and the rationale is that this can help with our economic development, and it's just more efficient use of some landlocked land. So, any questions on Article 13, FinCom? I know we talked about this at length 2 weeks ago, but how about audience? Any questions on Article 13? That little bit of land in Uxbridge? All right, can we have a motion then to recommend Article 13 as written?
So
So
moved.
moved.
All right, Heather, thank you.
Sorry, Ryan.
That's okay.
Seconded by?
I'll second.
Ryan, thank you. All right, let's have a roll call vote.
Robert Leonardi, aye.
Ryan Hogan, aye.
Lynn Mazzoli, aye.
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Carol Gogolinski, aye.
Heather Moore, aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. Article 14, Board of Health Design Landfill Cap Repair. This addresses pooling on top of the cap. That's the right word, Matt? Yep. Okay. All right, any questions on the Article 14 FinCom about the landfill cap? Audience, any questions? Article 14? We need a motion then to recommend Article 14 as written.
So moved.
Lynn Mazzulli, thank you, Lynn.
Second.
Second by Ryan. Any discussion on the motion, anyone? Roll call vote.
Robert Leonardi, aye.
Ryan Hogan, aye.
Lynn Mazzoli, aye.
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Carol Gogolinski, aye.
Heather Moore, aye.
That's unanimous. All right, Article 15 was the zoning map amendment for Brown Road. This is the little strip that was zoned industrial, and now it'll change the zone to match, I think, everybody in the area, right, Matt? Pretty much? Any questions, FinCom, on Article 15? You all drove up to Brown Road to take a look at it. Audience, how about you? Any questions, Article 15? Heather, did you have a question?
No?
Okay. All right, let's have a motion then to recommend Article 15 as written.
So moved.
I think Rob makes it. Heather, you second?
Second.
Okay. Discussion? Okay, roll call vote.
Robert Leonardi, aye.
Ryan Hogan, aye.
Lynn Mazzoli, aye.
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Carol Gogolinski, aye.
Heather Moore, aye.
So that's unanimous.
Dick,
Yep.
Adam has his hand raised.
Oh, Adam, sorry.
That's the mouse.
Oh, it was?
It did look like a hand.
Okay.
I want credit.
That's the grassy knoll, right? Ken, can you come to the table a minute and just explain why the two roads were pulled?
Thought it was just one.
One on.
There's only one left. Two were pulled.
And for the record, identify yourself, please.
Yes, Ken Fraser, Building Commissioner.
So we had three initially, right, Ken?
So originally, there was going to be three road acceptances that were going to be presented. Two have been withdrawn, so now there's only one road acceptance, which is Joseph Road.
And the two that were withdrawn, give us a little narrative of those two and what the issues are.
Okay, so the two, William Court was one, has been withdrawn because it's not complete, it's not ready for town acceptance on a roadway. The same thing for Whiten Heights, there's just too many things that haven't been completed for the town to be accepting them.
And then the surety we have in place for Joseph Road,
Say again, sorry.
the bond for Joseph
So
Road?
Joseph Road had a balance on bond of, I believe it was $18,000 that would be released on road acceptance.
And what's outstanding for Joseph Road yet?
Nothing, they've completed the
Oh,
project.
that sealing that they were going to do, they did that?
I've got to check that one crack seal, but he reassured me, but with the rain, I'm sure that's held up his ultrasonic sealing that he was going to do, or infrared sealing he was going to do, but I'll be on top of that, I'll check him.
Okay. So do you feel pretty confident that by the time the town meeting comes, this will be
Yeah.
good to go?
I wouldn't say there'd be an issue with that being completed before town meeting.
Okay. Any questions for our building inspector, anybody? Audience, any questions for our building inspector? All right, Ken, thank you. All right, any questions, FinCom, on the article itself? So we just have one road, right? Joseph Road. Audience, any questions? All right, can we have a motion then to recommend Article 16 as written?
So moved.
Heather, thank you. Lynn, second?
Sure.
Okay. Discussion, anybody on Article 16? Roll call vote.
Robert Leonardi, aye.
Brian Hogan, aye.
Lynn Mazzulli, aye.
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Carol Gogolinski, aye.
Heather Moore, aye.
So that's unanimous. So Ken, thanks for being on top of that on our behalf. We appreciate that. MS4 compliance. So this is Article 17. We're part of a multi-year state program to upgrade and improve our stormwater management. This will enable that program to continue. Any questions on Article 17? FinCom. Audience, any questions? And Lynn has memorized what the 4 S's are, right, Lynn?
I did. Separate storm sewer system.
Yes, good for you. All right, we need a motion then to recommend Article 17 as written.
So moved.
So moved, Lynn, thank you.
Second.
Second by Ryan. Roll call vote.
Robert Leonardi, aye.
Brian Hogan, aye.
Lynn Mazzulli, aye.
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Carol Gogolinski, aye.
Heather Moore, aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Okay, Article 18, the personnel bylaw amendment. This will update the language to address pay inequities. Matt, can you speak to that a little bit? More specifically, what are the inequities that are being addressed here?
Article 18.
Yeah, just so people have a sense of the context. Holidays, right?
Yeah, so there's only one change to existing language here. You're adding the word call to the list of people who get holiday bonus pay for working on a holiday. So,
So that's it. Okay.
Yep.
All right, any questions for Matt, anybody? Audience, any questions on that? All right, thank you, Mr. Wojcik.
Jean?
Yeah, Jean, comment?
It's also adding the per diem for the dispatchers. So it's limited part-time, temporary fill-in, and per diem, and seasonal employees.
you had per diem in already?
I think so, yeah.
Yes.
So what was that, Jean?
The dispatches, it was the Holland dispatches that were going to be affected by this. I just, it wasn't just the contract.
Okay,
Call.
all right. Thank you, Matt. Any questions, FinCom, on Article 18 right now? All right, we need a motion then to recommend Article 18 as written.
So moved.
Lynn moves.
Second.
Second.
Ryan beat you to it, Heather. Ryan seconds. Discussion? Roll call vote.
Robert Leonardi, aye.
Brian Hogan, aye.
Lynn Mazzulli, aye.
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Carol Gogolinski, aye.
Heather Moore, aye.
So that's unanimous. Water sewer elevated water storage tank. Bob, are you here?
Perfect timing. Good evening.
Good evening.
Just identify yourself for the record, Bob.
Robert Manerick, Economic Development, Town of Douglas.
So if you could set the stage for kind of the phases that we're doing on North Street for our audience, okay?
Yeah, we've broken the project up into two phases. The original project was a tank and the street itself with a 12-inch water main, sidewalks, road straightening. We got rejected for a MassWorks grant last year, so we decided to make it a little smaller, two pieces. So this year, we're going after just the tank, the water storage tank. We're applying for a MassWorks grant. This $250,000 from the Water Sewer Enterprise Fund is the match for the MassWorks grant. The MassWorks grant then will become the match for an EDA federal grant.
So does the state pony up some and then the feds pony up some? Is that how that works?
Well, we first apply for the MassWorks.
Yeah.
If we get the MassWorks, we apply for the EDA, the federal grant.
Yeah.
This will be the match for the MassWorks grant, so we have skin in the game, per se.
Will the MaxWork grant be the same amount of money then?
The MassWorks will be about 2.5 million, just round numbers, 2.5 million. The EDA grant will be about 1.6 million.
Okay.
Yeah, the previous EDA grant was an 80-20 split. This one's a 40-60.
So this is to show the government that we're serious about
We're
it.
serious about this project, yes.
And so if the town meeting approves this, how does the process go? When do we know if we've been successful? This calendar year yet, or?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I'm in the process of writing the grant. It's due first week in June. Then through the summer, right up through September. In October, we have a pretty good idea if we're getting the grant. November, late October, early November is when they announce the grants.
The state and the feds?
No, just the
Okay.
state, but
Yeah.
I will have the federal one already completed.
I see, okay.
They'll be going in parallel.
I see, got it. All right, any questions for Bob on Article 19, anybody? Audience, any questions? Yeah, Jean?
I just want to point out that the warrant article says the sum not to exceed the sum of 250. The motion is that I'll be transferring the sum of 250 from water and sewer retained earnings.
Right, yeah. So the way it's written in the article currently is the way you want it to be written, right? Because it mentions the earnings.
The article is broad, it's up to. The motion is specific, it is 250,000.
Oh, I see, yeah. Okay. So, to see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of 250,000, not up to 250, is that right? Okay. Everybody see that? Okay. All right, thank you, Robert. Okay. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So then we need a motion, everybody, to recommend Article 19 as tweaked a little bit, where it says to see if the town will vote to transfer a sum of 250,000, not to exceed the amount. Correct, Gene? Okay. Somebody make that motion?
So moved.
All right, Ryan?
Second.
Rob, seconds. Any discussion? Everybody clear? Audience, everybody clear on that? All right, roll call vote.
Robert Leonardi, aye.
Brian Hogan, aye.
Lynn Mazzulli, aye.
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Carol Gogolinsky, aye.
Heather Moore, aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. And then the BVT stabilization account, Mike, are you here? Mark, sorry.
Mark's here at Anthony Steele.
You guys want to come to the table?
Sure.
Sorry, Mark. I have it written down here too, but got too many papers floating. So, gentlemen, one of our concerns about the stabilization account was it was kind of vague. It didn't give amounts or what it would be for, and
Sure, happy to address
we're a little
that.
nervous about that.
Absolutely. I would be too, under
Why
those
don't you guys
conditions.
identify yourselves for the record, okay?
Anthony Steele, Assistant Superintendent Principal.
Mark Potter, School Committee, Representative for Douglas.
And soon to be the super, right?
In July, yes,
Yeah.
July 1st. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. If I may, Chair Vandenberg, thank you for giving us the opportunity to present, and committee as well. When we first came on May 5th, was prior to our public hearing on our budget and prior to the subsequent school committee vote. So I did bring those full copies of the budget. We're presenting off of a proposed draft at that time, so I'll leave those for you there. I think we spoke some about the request for the stabilization account back on the 5th, but welcome the opportunity to talk more about it and clarify what we're looking for. The creation of a stabilization account first was expressly for capital projects and improvements and limited to that function alone. I did bring copies if anybody's interested in the Chapter 71, Section 16G and a half on, that's Mass General laws on basically the establishment of that type of an account for a regional school. You can share those, Mark. Thank you. We have basically, I'll say in the last 21 years, we've approached the towns twice for bonding. Specifically, the first time I referenced there was the renovation we did back in, what was that, 2002 and 3?
Thank you very much.
And then just recently, last year, for the bonding for the roof. In the meantime, in between there, we have obviously been maintaining our building without special warrant article requests or any type of funding requests. We've been doing that primarily through E&D and grants, and I think we spoke quite a bit. In the copy of the budget is a long list of grants that we have been successfully getting. This past year, about $3 million in grants. The E&D has been helpful in that we're able to match those grants and or increase our ability to get the grants with some matching funds. And primarily that has been how we have been systematically chipping away with capital improvement projects on our plan. I have a number of those types of jobs that have, are projects that have been completed. And of course, as we're renewing actually our 10-year plan, we're right in the process of renewing it for the next 10 years, have quite a list of those things that are on the list. We have a limit of how much we can achieve with just using E&D, excess and deficiency. And obviously, we always have been very mindful to try to pair those with opportunities to find other kinds of funding to complete projects. The request for the stabilization account was simply to give us the ability to take either donation money or perhaps even thoughtful use of E&D to put aside for the effort of knocking projects off of our capital improvement plan. I think we talked the last time we were here on the 5th that some particulars about the way the stabilization account works. There would be a line item in the budget. And so I can tell you even from other presentations that we've done some of the concerns that various towns have had. So what would prevent Valley Tech from putting whatever number it wants in that and basically asking the towns to fund said stabilization account? First of all, the intent of that was to be able to give us the ability to save, to do projects. However, somewhat of an internal check and balance, if you will, was that we feel like, and I believe I speak for Mr. Potter as the school committee, that if we were to get unreasonable with any kind of request to fund said account, that it would jeopardize the entire budget year to year. And so it has somewhat of that check and balance. I would also expect that if we were presenting a budget that included any form of a request to fund the stabilization account, that it would also come with the transparency of what the intended project was and the details that are associated with it. So thus the transparency that those types of activities deserve. There was questions about, well, what's the limit? What is the cap? And when you look at the Chapter 71, 16G and a half, there is some ambiguity in there. One of them is the combined equalized value of the 13 towns, to which at least one person calculated that somewhere around 130 billion. And I said, well, that would be nice, but I don't think that's going to happen. But nonetheless, it's a valid point, valid concern. I have here a motion for our school committee meeting on Thursday night, so 2 nights away. When we presented, we were saying that within one interpretation here, that we wouldn't exceed 5%. So it would have a similar limit like our E&D does. That was our intent, and we understand and appreciate that perhaps there are gray areas or other interpretations that could be had. This motion that I have in front of me here is an action that the school committee anticipates on taking Thursday night that would impose our own cap or maximum of 5% on that account for that fiscal year, so based on our operating budget. So we're trying to work with any finance committee or anybody from the public for that matter who has a concern about either the purpose of the account, what would the cap be, how would we ensure that we wouldn't abuse the request to fund it. And I guess one other issue that has come up is that how do you control or how do you decide what to do with the money? And that responsibility rests with the elected school committee members that's their oversight. The establishment of the account was pursued because the district treasurer, our independent auditors, and the Mass Association of Regional Schools recommended that as a best practice, particularly for a school that has consistently been funding its own capital improvements. And so essentially it gives us the capacity and the ability to thoughtfully save for and complete those projects.
Okay, questions, FinCom? Anybody have a question for
So,
either of our guys here?
As you and I had discussed, the single biggest concern that I have, and I'll be broadly honest about this, and I even brought this up at my the last Finance Committee meeting, just to be absolutely clear, I have had no children, grandchildren, anything like that going through BVT. I have no connection in one way or another. I'm just looking at this purely through the lens of, fiscal responsibility. And the single biggest concern that I have, as I discussed with you, is there's a tsunami of expense coming just from health benefits, retiree, unfunded pensions. The teacher contract is up this year. The transportation contract is up in 2 years, and towns have seen enormous increases in those expenses. Adding even 5% on to what was a 7% increase for the town of Douglas, or the 13 towns, pushing that to 12%, that may very well be a floor. In coming years, you're now looking at potentially a significantly larger increase year after year after year. So even though it's a modest 5% as presented, it's still something when you're looking at it from the lens of all of our town departments are asked to hold budgets flat or cut projects, and we're going to be adding an extra 5% onto a budget that we as the town of Douglas really don't have. We have a 1/13th representation on that board. That's the concern that I have.
Anthony, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, so and perhaps I didn't present that well. The intent is not that it would add a 5% increase to the annual request. In fact, I would envision there will be years that it is zero. It is a 5% cap in the account. So in other words, the account could never grow past 5% of what our annual budget is. I would anticipate that there would probably be several years where the request from the towns is zero. It simply gives us the ability to save, if you will, whether it be by donations or whether it be by moving E&D over into it for known projects that we have on the horizon. As we talked, we're very sensitive to all of those things that you mentioned. As your next superintendent, I'm not there yet. Give me till July. But I have no intention on coming into the towns, especially this one, with a budget that I don't think you will gain your support. Otherwise, I'm going to have a record short superintendency. And that's what I expect from Mr. Potter. So no, it's not that we would increase or that it would add that kind of, in fact, it's quite the opposite. Our intention in doing this is to not come to the towns to ask for tax dollars to fund our capital projects. And, we have a very good track record of doing that over the last 20 years. We wish to continue that. To your point, the cost escalation on these projects is getting to the point where we can't fund them out of E&D in the model that we have been using all these years. We're looking for a mechanism to be able to thoughtfully save and, again, move forward with our capital improvement plan. But no, I don't see that as in our future. I don't think that's going to work.
Other questions? Anybody?
So I have one, just so I understand this correctly. So the E&D account can be 5% of the overall budget.
Correct.
And now the stabilization, so now you're essentially going to have enough funds, if you want, ideally, that for 10% of the budget. Is that correct? So why not just change, is it a state law on the E&D budget that can only be 5%? Or why not increase that amount and as opposed to create a whole new account?
So good question. E&D is capped by state law at 5%. This past year was a high water mark for us. We were close to the 5% with 1.4 million. The year prior, so FY24, was the previous high water mark at 1.1. The average, let's say over, or a typical year for us is more around 750 to 800. And so let me just do some math in my own head here. I would be fairly nervous to say that you're going through a year with less than 500 in there for emergencies. That's its purpose, ultimately, is boiler goes, hot water heater goes, that kind of thing. That would make me itchy to run, along with less than 500. You get to the end of the year and you say, okay, what can we do with this? We've also, over the years, for at least 20 years or so, have taken at the end of the year anywhere from 100 to, I think the high water mark was 350, typically 250,000, and we've put it towards the assessments to knock down the impact to the towns. So if you typically have 800, and you're trying to hold on to 500, and you're going to throw 250, 200, 250, somewhere in there towards the next budget, it only leaves you with 100 or so to try to make progress on the projects. It's not a lot of wiggle room. In years, for example, like we just had, where we had a high E&D, that's when we basically pounced on, we got the grant to renovate Culinary Arts. That was 1.25 million, but in order to get it, we committed 400,000 of E&D to work that project through. So we have an interesting 10-year capital improvement plan. It's based on opportunity. That we have all of these projects, but we're out hunting for alternative ways to pay for them. You land a grant like the Culinary Arts renovation, and thankfully it was a time when we had the E&D that we could commit to it. And so it's been that type of process. But I would say in an average or typical year, you don't have a lot of wiggle room to make progress on significant projects. And that's the concern. And that's why we were saying if we establish a stabilization account, you could more methodically put money aside for that purpose, finish that project, cycle, repeat, and keep doing that. Still plan on using grants and donations or whatever other non-tax method we can to achieve projects. That model's been working well. 3 times in a row, we did small sections of the roof at about $1 million a piece through MSBA. got the MSBA reimbursement, put it back into E&D, did the next section, and we were able to self-fund 3 in a row. With cost escalations, even if we had a full $1.5 million and disregarded having anything for emergencies, you can't even do much roof with $1.5 million now. It's become that way with construction and everything else. So we're just recognizing that we're running out of capacity in the model that we have. They're not going to increase the limit on E&D. That's going to remain the same. And so, you know, that's the ask and the consideration. We essentially want the ability to continue to do business the way that we have, which has been take care of ourselves. We do a lot of work ourselves because we have a building full of technicians and students who like working on their own home, so to speak. We want to keep doing that. But it does take some money to make it happen.
What's the next big project?
Would you like some off the list? We have, we're at capacity with the students, so we need to build a walk-in cooler that's outside the cafeteria, so that project's underway. We have a vocational storage building to store equipment in that, well, here's a good example. We bid the project. It's not a large garage, maybe 20 by 30. Forgive me on the specifics there. The bids came in double what we had estimated. So we can't do that project. So we took it off the street. We're rebidding it for just the foundation and site work. So it's a little bit of utility, a little bit of foundation. Then we were going to go, let that finish. We're going to go buy the steel building, and our instructors and our students will put that up. We can hopefully get it back down to about half, which is what we thought it was going to cost. But we'll do that work. So there's another one. There's some paving that needs to be done. We have an aging phone system that I'm dreading because those are not cheap. But it's 22 years old and no longer supported. So we're going to let that hang on as long as it possibly can. A fire panel upgrade, we're coming up on that. We have a few science labs that are, I'll stop short saying original equipment from when the building was built, so 66 years old, but they're due for an upgrade, things like that. We can go on. We had a complimentary audit by the Department of Homeland Security, which was a nice thing. They came in and spent a couple days actually auditing our entire building for security concerns, and they identified some significant aspects that we'd like to fix. Locker replacements, expanding parking, some floors in the school that need to be repaired or, you know, renovated, upgraded. HVAC systems, 3 Seasons, it's a restaurant where we greet people coming in. That's another one of those security items. But you get the idea there. We have no shortage of the things that we chip away at. And we've done that kind of silently, right? Or at least trying to figure out ways to get it done ourselves.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Can I ask a follow-up?
Go ahead,
Sorry.
Brian. Yeah.
So back to the EOD account. So would you say over the last 5 years, last 10 years, whatever you feel comfortable answering, what percentage of the budget was that on average?
Let's see. Well, you're at a 5% cap, right? The budget has gone up roughly, what, $2 million a year, so 30 million and 32 million. We'll do some quick
maybe
math
I'll ask it
there.
another way. So are you hitting that 5% cap in EOD?
Never.
Okay. So
This past year is the closest we've ever come, and we were probably at 4 or 4.6. Right?
So if you're not hitting that cap,
Yeah.
I would think if you told me we're consistently hitting that 5 million cap and we need more, the 5% cap, excuse me,
Yeah.
and thus we need more funds and we can't because of state law, thus we're opening the other account, that would seem to make more sense to me. If you're not, why not just raise the E&D account until you hit the limit, and then after you've done that 2, 3, 4 years, you could then, I think, make my opinion, a better argument as to why to open the stabilization account.
Well, I can give you more of a conceptual answer to that.
Okay.
E&D has functioned as a stabilization also. right? And so what we've done with E&D, particularly with the offset that we've put into the budget, is that when there's, a particularly tough year, let's look at minimum contribution this year, was a killer, how that spiked for some towns. This one included, 7.9%. And so that's a great year to try to use some excess and deficiency, and we put more than usual this year towards that to help knock that down. So it does stabilize in that sense of the word. When we're able to do it, that's when we've taken E&D and also done more repairs, if we can do more repairs. So it's, if you will, stabilized our ability to, make progress when we can afford to do it. And so, it's not an issue of whether or not we can max out E&D. And when we have done, well with E&D, we've always tried to return some portion of it to the towns. We wish to continue to do that. So it's not really, I guess I'll say it this way. We have averaged, like I said, around 800,000, and I couldn't tell you what next year is going to be. I'm going to say probably somewhere in the 500,000, 600,000, 700,000 range. I don't think we're going to have another, year where we're close to the limit. But so be it. But at least if we had an account that we can continue to just put funds in, and we have a project in mind, or we have a goal in mind, and we're able to save towards it, you continue to use E&D in the ways that I just described, but that's different than just simply going to E&D and saying, let's do a project. Does that make sense, the way I described that?
I guess so. The two accounts just seem duplicative to me, to be bluntly honest. And, that's why I thought maybe the state law was the issue. You were running into that cap, so you want a second one to be able to do that, but it doesn't seem like you are running into that.
Let me say it to you another way. Okay. Let me pick a project off here. Let's say I'm just going to say the phone system and the fire panel.
Yeah.
And it's $1.5 million to do that. It's probably more, but let's just go with that. I can't go in any form of good conscience say, let's wipe out E&D to zero and do those projects. That would be fairly irresponsible, because now you've left yourself nothing in case you have an emergency. So that's to illustrate what I'm talking about. A much smarter way or wiser way of doing that is to say, geez, maybe you can put from E&D a few $100,000 over into stabilization, and it might take you a year or two, but build up your money that way. And then when you have it, do that project out of stabilization. But you can't just go in and wipe out E&D or because you never know fully what to anticipate for the following year. So it's a safer way of doing business, in my opinion.
Okay.
Anybody else, questions?
So in the Chapter 71 regulation, the stabilization fund may be appropriated by a vote of 2/3 of all members of the regional school district school committee for any purpose for which regional school districts may borrow money, or for such other district purpose as the Commissioner of Elementary and Secondary Education may approve. So it's not just capital projects. There's other things that this money could be used for.
That's correct. So let me explain. What this law talks about is stabilization funds.
Yes.
And I think, as you know, you probably have several. You've had stabilization in different funds, but they're earmarked, if you will, or for a specified purpose. Right? We are specifically creating this as a capital project and improvement stabilization fund. And although the law is written in a manner that Mr. Potter and his 12 other elected officials can, according to the MGL there, spend it on whatever they want, we've been specific about what the purpose of this account is for. Now, they do have leeway to basically choose what to spend it on within that category. And I will acknowledge that there is some degree of trust that they have a good ethics and perform their duties as school committee members would to do that judiciously and wisely. Right? So there is a degree of trust there, and I trust them, but they're my boss. I hope you trust them, because they were elected just like everyone else.
Rob, anything else there? or-
So I guess where I get a little, I respect what you're saying.
Yeah.
In the warrant itself is still, though, that language about where they can use it for any, any purpose that they can borrow money or what. If that wasn't in the warrant language, if it just specifically mentioned with respect to future capital improvements and kind of, such account to be expended by 2/3 vote of the school district committee and then period, at that point, I feel a little bit more comfortable. The fact that it goes on to say, again, for any purpose for which, they may borrow money or for other such. So I understand what you're saying, it's capital improvements, but that language is in the warrant.
We'd be perfectly happy to have that language in that article.
Changed.
Absolutely. Sure.
Anthony, I think, or Mark, one thing that concerns me is everybody in this room was working under pretty tight constraints for their own budget, 2.5% to 3%. Yet our Valley Tech budget went up by 10,
Yeah.
10.4 to be exact. And there's not anything one town by itself can do up 13, correct? You need at least 6 to change the direction of the ship. So let's say this fund were established, and at one point Valley Tech decided they wanted to embark on a particular capital project. But we, as the town of Douglas, for whatever, felt it wasn't wise or a good use of that fund. We could tell our representative that at the meeting, but what kind of out does one town have if it doesn't agree with the decision, say, of who appropriates that money and who decides what it's used for? Because as it is now, one town can't really say no to the Valley Tech request, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, per the regional
So is this
agreement.
another way of the camel getting his nose in the tent? I guess it's a question.
Well, I guess, I look at the list of items that are on the, future project list here, and I don't know, I understand what you're saying. It's a, with all due respect, a worst-case scenario that you're saying, my God, Mr. Potter, why did you support X? I guess I come at it from a different lens of, looking at all of these things, and I would like to be able to accomplish these without coming to you all or the taxpayers to do them, and, see it as quite the opposite. I don't know what on the list would be, I'll say offensive, but I think Mr. Potter, I won't speak for him, but generally, school committee members are very receptive to listening to the communities that they represent.
But Anthony, is this warrant article basically just allow you to create a separate accounting column on your ledger called stabilization, or is it another way to get more money from the towns that you're currently getting?
Yeah, okay. And this is what I was referring to with, so within the budget, you will see a line item for stabilization. Now, I could come in next year and have 0 in that line. I don't think anyone would object to that. Although there are some few might say, well, are you guys taking care of the place? Okay, got it. There's always a balance. But that was the check and balance I was talking about, that if we came in and started putting ridiculous numbers in there, or even if it was one of those years where you're looking at a 10.4%, I don't think that's the year that you come also looking for stabilization to fund that line, if that makes sense.
But you could.
You could. I could also walk out of here with, 6-0, not in favor of our budget, and I don't think that's accomplishing much. So I guess it's the relationship, and forgive me because I'm rather new. I'm not even in the role yet, but I'm learning, okay? But that's not the kind of relationships that I envision trying to make. Quite the contrary.
Mark, what's your sense of this fund?
My sense is it would be better to
Given
put...
the amount of money over and above we can do our own budget, that goes to Valley Tech.
I mean, we watch how they do their budget, and it's tight, just like everybody else. There's certain things that they can't control, federal funding and kickbacks and grants and whatnot. But as far as this goes, I think that it's wise to have a spot to put money, to build a budget for capital expenses for, I mean, some of these are life safety items that need to be maintained, and it's a, how old is the school? 66-year-old school that's in phenomenal shape.
So as you see it, do you understand it as simply an accounting maneuver to create another place to park money, as opposed to a new way of getting money from the town?
Correct. No, I see it as a spot to have E&D money or grant money or donations stored away in a spot where they can be saved to build capital, to build and repair capital projects. And when we sit in these meetings, there's some dreams that we love to build, but these are priorities. We've kind of, a couple of months back, we sat and we, you know, every town around us is, not every town, not Douglas, but some towns have got turf fields and beautiful fields, and that's always an argument. Would we love to do that? Absolutely. Is it realistic to come to the town of Douglas and say, hey, we want to build a turf field? No, and we know that. It's not really what we'd like to do, but, you know, maintaining the roof, keeping kids in the school safe is definitely something we all agree on. I think this fund would be a good way to self-fund, indirectly self-fund a lot of these projects.
Okay, anybody else? Questions? Heather, you got any comments or questions? Or did you disappear?
No, I didn't disappear. No, I mean, I think I've heard enough to to do a vote.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Anybody else? Comments or questions? Audience, any comments or questions? All right, thank you, gentlemen.
I appreciate that, and I'll leave the copies of the budget here for you. Okay?
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you all. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
So any objection of holding off on a vote on this until we can all gather together as a committee?
I'm ready to vote.
I mean, are we going to do that before?
We would do it before the town meeting.
Yeah.
Howard's not here, Sandy's not here, Mike's not here.
I think we need to make our opinions known on the town flyer that goes out, so I would prefer to do that.
Okay, and Rob, your question about the wording.
Yes. I think we should have
I mean, they had
more of a
mentioned-
discussion as a committee. on
Yeah,
that.
that's, I think.
But
We're going to do that 15 minutes before the town.
Well, then we'd have to work on that tonight. Then we'd have to find out if that wording can be changed, et cetera, et cetera.
But
The wording doesn't mean much it's not going to really change my opinion, so it's not an important factor for me at least.
I think they like to put it on when they send out the
Hang on a minute.
thing too.
Go ahead, Carol, then Jean has a comment.
Right. I mean, when it goes out, it says what the finance committee recommended, right?
Correct.
So I think it should go out saying what we recommended.
And it's going out this
And it's
week.
going out, yeah, we won't have time, so I say we vote on it tonight.
But if that wording were changed, for instance, Rob, would that address any of your concerns? Less vague at that end.
Is the warrant is closed, though, correct?
Correct. Yeah, the warrant, two issues, Dick. One, the warrant's closed. The second, this language came from BBT, and from my understanding was what was submitted to all the other districts. So I don't know that we could have language that is unique to Douglas and then have the other communities vote on different language, Matt.
So Rob, what's your concern again on the language? Just say that again so we're clear.
So my concern was that it did include the for any purpose for which regional school districts may borrow money, et cetera, and everything after that.
Yeah.
Where it was the intention is for future capital improvements. So I don't want to hold up, you know, I'm ready to vote this evening because again, the warrant is closed. So I think we should vote then on as presented.
Okay. So just want to remember, everybody, that if we have a motion, all motions are positive, right? And then they fail or they don't fail. You don't have a negative motion, so. Any more discussion on this Article 20 as it's written? Anybody? Okay, then why don't we, let's have a motion to recommend Article 20 as written. Would somebody make the motion?
So moved.
Lynn moves, seconded by
Second.
Rob. Okay. So, roll call vote. Rob, you want to start?
Robert Leonardi, nay.
Brian Hogan, no.
Lynn Mazzulli, aye.
Dick Vandenberg, no.
Carol Gogolinski, no.
Heather Moore, no.
So 1 yes, 5 no. Okay, I think that's it for the warrant, correct? Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Fastest we ever got through it.
And we've got a couple more things on our agenda. I'm going to pass something around that we all need to sign.
Okay.
So okay, Carol, and pass it back to me, all right?
Okay. What are we signing, by the way?
So we can pay for the flyer.
Okay.
Matt, do you have anything you want to share with us tonight, or you about done?
I'll take it, Carol.
Thank
You're going to
you.
go home?
If you want to pass it this way.
Oh, okay.
I'll take it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Oh, Matt, Carol, you had a question about the highway garage? You had emailed me.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. what
Did
I-
you ask him about that or not?
Can we get a copy of, you said that you've had a recommendation from
Everybody's signed
basically what size we need for a garage. So can we get a copy of that?
The flyer.
Yes, there's the architect did a programming of the space by measuring all of our equipment and organizing it, so I can get you that onto a map, if you will.
Was that your only concern then, Carol?
Boy, I have a lot of concerns about it, but I don't know if this is the time to bring it up.
It's not on the warrant.
Because it's not on our,
No.
we haven't put it on there, so I don't think we can.
But stuff's scheduled to keep on going, right, pretty much?
I think the next BFCC meeting will discuss this in somewhat greater length. But that is one thing that won't change. So
What won't change?
the architect's estimate of the floor space needed to store our equipment and be able to get it in and out. That's just a math problem, so. But procedurally, I think we're going to take a big step back and just start over.
What'd you say?
I think we're taking a step back and we'll start over.
We start over.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I gotta get those hearing aids.
It's getting,
Sorry to make
you
you
know,
repeat.
But I just think that's where we're going to be, and I'm not even optimistic that we would be on the timetable to do a special. I just don't see it.
Okay.
The problem's more complicated than people appreciate, so I think what we need to do is have a committee learn to appreciate the things that we've come to appreciate over 3 years of working on this. And if that's the only way to persuade people, then that's what we'll do. But as of right now, you know, it's at a point where I think the citizenry needs to have a committee so that the people who have to make the project work can be the ones asking the questions, rather than answering the questions. Because I think the dynamic is, at this point, not generating a useful conversation.
Really?
I just, you know, the terrain in Douglas is extremely challenging. And the size of any building, getting the building to fit on a piece of land. But I think there's a deeper philosophical issue of, and it's worthy to be fleshed out. The building we're sitting in is 100 years old. It has served the town proudly for 100 years. because it was built properly for the purpose it was designed for. And then when that purpose ended, it was still so well-built, it had other things that it could do for the town. The municipal center saves the town of Douglas many millions of dollars because we house the police department in this building. They do not have a station. They don't have all of the separate maintenance and operation and other complications of building a station or maintaining a station. We have the opportunity to move some of our functions upstairs, broaden the space, and that alone is an extremely important outlook for the town. So when you're looking to build a new building, what are you going to do? Are you going to build something that would be obsolete in a short period of time, or that won't have the durability, or are you going to just focus on getting it done right? But getting it done right also has to match the site. So there are many components of cost that generate the final project cost. So if we get sour on a site, that's all well and good, but where are you going to put it? Because at the end of the day, our responsibility is to provide a workspace that is safe and functional for the people who work in it. And as an asset manager, we should not have expensive stuff laying all around in different buildings or outside. So the core function of what we've been trying to do is put all of that stuff in one place. If it needs to be under a roof, it can be under a roof. If it can sit outside under just a lean-to, it can do that. But that's a math problem. So how big that building needs to be is driven by the equipment that the town owns and where it can be stored, and how the space can be utilized effectively by the people who work in that space. So the notion of taking 14,000 square feet worth of stuff and putting it into 14,000 square feet so that there is no room to move around in it is not responsible. Or is it? I don't think that that's a policy decision that the appointed staff really should be trying to make. We can drive the conversation as we know more about it. We do the day-to-day operations. The highway superintendent needs to be intimately involved in the conversation about how he wants to configure his workforce and his assets. So, I mean, we've made a lot of progress and a lot of effort into trying to narrow this down to suitable locations. But I think to get to a point where we can get to town meeting and have some support for the final project, I don't think we're on a good course. I think we need to broaden the conversation, put it in front of a camera, let people flesh out all their ideas, but also let people struggle with the realities. If you don't own the property as a town, then you'll have to buy it. And if you have to buy it, you have to follow procurement law or take it. Now, I, for one, will never go forward with a proposal to take property to build a town building. I'm just not going to do it. If it's for economic development and it's owners unknown and there's a millionaires and nobody's shown up since 1905 to pay the taxes, I think that's a kind of a different conversation about takings. So if that's off the table, then you're going to find a willing seller who's willing to sell something that is actually going to meet the mission critical components of the project design. At least to me, replacing one 5,600 square foot building with a 6,000 square foot building really just doesn't move the needle. You're just taking the problem you have over here and moving it to a different place. So that conversation occurred 3 years ago when we had the committee that did the needs assessment. We had a long conversation, and BFCC went out and we did video of the space constraints in the building. We had a lot of momentum, and then we lost momentum because we went back and forth with the architect over some building design issues and then with the landowner over due diligence. So I really think we're at the point now where we've got to start over. It's just where we're at.
With a new site also?
I think everything's going to be on the table.
No kidding. Okay.
You'll notice we haven't done anything other than due diligence on the site. We haven't filed a notice of taking. We haven't had conversation in public about executing the authority given by town meeting because it's not ready yet. And as I've said in more than one forum, if the site has problems, we won't go forward. It's not responsible. You're not just going to put your head down and run forward because you think you want it. No, it's an asset being built for the people of the town, for a service organization that's providing snow plowing and road maintenance and other things. You decide where you want it to be and how big you want it to be. Just be mindful that if you don't build anything big enough or adequate and it has problems 10, 15 years down the road, the cost of building something a decade from now may be very different than it is today. And I think you've probably already learned that lesson. 100 years ago, this building cost $120,000 to build, and it supported 212 students. All the information courtesy of Rebecca LaValle, our awesome town historian over at the library. But it just goes to show you, if you do it right, you have something that's a better value for the people, rather than trying to do it for less money, but not getting a really good result. And that's like I said, a philosophical conversation that only the residents, the voters, the taxpayers of the town should be having. And then once they struggle with the problem, they can go to town meeting and give that firsthand, well, come on, we looked at this, we did this, we did that. And it's not just the town administrator or the highway superintendent or a selectman.
Okay, well, thanks for that update, Matt. All right, anything else for Matt? Anybody? All right, go across the highway in Smithfield.
That's easy. Come on.
I was surprised how busy it was the other day, northbound. Just so slow.
I guess, in a way, that flyover project is another good analogy for a highway one conversation. It looks ugly. It takes a long time. It's extremely inconvenient. But when the thing is built, it really is going to make a difference. I've commuted over that roadway 2 times a day, every day for the last 8 some odd years. And I can tell you it's going to make a really big difference. Not stopping at that light, not waiting for turning traffic, not waiting in the queue for the light to change. It's a really big deal. It's been kind of an ugly project. It's typical.
Kind of.
Typical. Listen, I'm a Rhode Islander by birth, so I can say what I want. Ride Hot is not. Shouldn't be in charge of anything, but they've done a fairly decent job of this one. That's not the issue. The issue is the Washington Bridge, man. Every time I drive over it, it's like, London Bridge is falling down.
And there's no bids on it yet, right?
What's that?
There are no bids on it yet.
No.
So how do they get around that now? That
We're
bridge?
all driving over one side of the bridge.
Okay.
There were actually 2 bridges there.
Yeah.
Eastbound, westbound, where we are all on one bridge.
Oh, okay, so only
So
one
the
of them.
eastbound bridge is the only one that opened, but it's been cut in half.
Wow.
And then all the lanes shrunk
Yeah,
down,
yeah,
so we're
yeah.
3 lanes in both directions with our mirrors touching each other.
Yeah.
We can smell a guy's coffee next to you. No.
Well, thank you, Matt.
All right, thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.
Have a good night.
Drive safe.
All right, so we've signed this. Gene, there are no transfers, though, correct?
Here are not. I am going to request that the Finance Committee remain open after town meeting should any of the articles fail, especially as a special, because there would be a reserve fund at that time.
All right, we heard from Matt. So we're going to meet at 6:30 on May 5, just to go over any loose ends that we need to before the town meeting. The minutes of May 5, which I just got to you about 4 hours ago, we're going to just hold on to those. And we'll do those,
Those weren't from May 5.
or, we're going to do them at May 5, yeah. March 25. Don't forget the Italian buffet, everybody, April 30.
Yeah.
Let Lisa know.
Oh,
All right, anybody have anything else? All right, Heather, anything?
Nope, I'm good.
All right, motion to adjourn, anybody?
Motion.
So moved.
Rob made it, Heather, you second, okay?
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye. Oh, roll call vote. Rob,
Leonardi, aye.
Brian Hogan, aye.
Lynn Mazzoli, aye.
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Carol Gogolinsky, aye.
Heather Moore and I.
We adjourn at 8:37.